Hello everybody, welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Such.
And my name is James.
Second episode in 1 week, which means there's a whole set of midweek fixtures to get through.
Well, that's because, it's a whole set of midweek fixtures to get through. You went to West Ham Wednesday and I went to Tottenham last night. It felt more like November than April with the weather.
It was chilly, yeah, no doubt about it.
As it was monsoon weather at Southampton. I saw a bit of that last night. Yeah, some shitty weather. Doesn't feel like it's about to approach
May is around the corner, mate.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it. Suj, you are into the top 100k.
Yeah.
Let's have a round of applause for
It's only
Suj.
taken since we started the podcast, do you know how many game weeks I counted?
150?
223 game weeks.
You've never been in the top 100k
I've never
at any
been in
point?
in my life. I have
That's
never
incredible.
been in the top 100k. Never.
I'm pleased for you.
It might have been a situation 10 years ago where I was, and I wouldn't have known about it. But I couldn't tell you. Since we started the podcast, I've never been top 100k. Never.
Go on then. Tell everyone about
96,877.
Tell everyone about your world-class game week.
Well, game week rank was only 1.18 million, which isn't that high. It's high enough, but it isn't that high, which makes me wonder. Like, I got 75 points, which is 20 above average of 55. So how is there a million players that have got such high scores?
You've got more in there. So like Tyrone Mings. Have you got Rashford?
Yes.
You have. You've got Switzerland this week with Steele, Haaland captain, obviously, Rashford, Kane.
And Trent.
And I wouldn't worry about Trent, but I mean in terms of double digits.
Yeah.
You've got 4 double digits there, haven't you?
Yeah.
Whereas I've only got Rashford and Haaland captain. So essentially you've beat me this week, Kane and Steele. That's it.
And Steele was a very
Trent's
conscious decision, like Nottingham Forest versus Chelsea, who had Brentford. I thought I'd rather play the keeper that's got Nottingham Forest. And if Steele wasn't fit, well, he was not going to come on, was he? So Kepa would come on anyway. So playing Steele ahead of Kepa was pretty straightforward as a decision. And then I had one free transfer, and I'm wildcarding this week, apparently.
What do you mean apparently? Yes, you are.
I need to, don't I?
Yes, you do.
I have not even tinkered with a draft.
There's no reason for you not to do this.
Yeah. So I had one transfer back to game week 33, and debating moving Kane on for just a 1 week crazy punt, which would have been Iheanacho probably, and just wildcard him straight out, or even maybe Ollie Watkins or someone that was highly owned. Or the alternative was to go from VVD to Trent, because Trent's ownership was climbing up pretty quickly. I had the money to do it, and the likelihood is I'm going to keep him off the other side of wildcard anyway. So if there was
you just flipped VVD to Trent?
Yeah, that was literally my only move for the week. And
I'm surprised
it's
that's
worth
what you
it for an
chose to
assist
do.
in the end.
Because you thought you'd give them trouble. So, look, you got 3 points out.
Yeah, but Trent's the attacking outlet and return. And it was a little bit of a ownership play, to be honest with you, because his ownership was creeping up. I thought, you know what, I want to just jump on early. Also, if this price goes up, my team value isn't that good relative to some. So, I ended up just a really boring move, which was VVD to Trent. But net, the move that I'd made prior to free hitting in 32 was the Haaland move. And 2 captaincies, one in 32 and one in 31 and one in 33. What did he score 2 weeks ago? 30 something, was it?
He's done well since you brought him back in.
So 24 and then 28 as captains.
Imagine if you didn't have it.
Yeah, that's 62 points. No, 52
have you got
points.
Mo?
Yeah, no, I sold him.
Yeah, so not this. You didn't sell him this week.
No. I sold him to let me get Haaland. That was the way I made the money.
The amount of people that I saw take a -4, which I think was perfectly understandable, to go from Fernandes and Kane, 16 points, I think, between the two, -4 to Salah and Isak for 3. So a net -17 loss. If you're one of those people, please take solace in the fact that you are not the only one. I saw a lot of people make that transfer. We always knew this would be a difficult week. My intention had been to roll going into this week. I got done over myself by the Bruno Instagram post from his missus Let's just understand now that Bruno is indestructible and will play every game for Manchester United until the end of time, basically, it feels like. But I was very conscious that I might be going Fernandes to Salah this coming week anyway, because I know I want to get Mo in. And I took the decision that there was enough doubt to make the move. And I was asking myself, would I be more disappointed if Fernandes played and I'd made the transfer, or if I didn't and he didn't play? And decided I'd be more disappointed if he didn't play and I didn't make the transfer and just left it. So as it turned out, you'll probably tell us, Mo Salah was fairly quiet Wednesday, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Don't worry, he's got dots to Tottenham Sunday owners.
Yeah, he was fairly quiet.
Still, at least for me, who scored 20 points less than you, I got 55 this week.
Whack.
It's Kane and Still. Yeah. That's 21, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've got...
But so few returns elsewhere. Well, Haaland's half of your score.
And Rashford. Haaland and Rashford is 40 of my 55. Got 15 points from the other 9 decades. Shit happens. Which, it was one of them, on paper, it doesn't look so bad. Like, the Everton score a goal from a corner, wipes out a double Newcastle clean sheet. Watkins at home to Fulham looked good. Brighton players away to Forest looked good. Even though it was a difficult week, Grealish created a number of chances in the City-Arsenal game. Should have been at least a 3-pointer. Ended up being a 1-pointer. Double Chelsea defence, Chilwell and Kepa. At least I didn't leave Raya and Henry on the bench instead. Oh, whoops, I did. But I don't regret that decision. I mean, Brentford won 2-0 and had one shot on target. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Whatever, it is what it is.
It's probably one of the craziest stats going.
So that feels like a very typical one. You can be very hindsighty about it and go, yeah, Chelsea have been disastrous. And actually, if you look at the game, no, that could have easily flipped the other way, actually. 55 for me. Part of doing the Fernandes to Salah transfer meant that I knew what I was going to do coming into this week. So, unfortunately, I'm going to make moves to what Sudge has already got. And I'm going to wave the white flag, Sudge, because I can't catch you.
You don't think so? I think it's going to be difficult. Because
I'm
of the way I can see him into doublers.
I'm 45 points behind you and your wildcard in this week. Yeah. I can't catch you, mate. And we're all going towards similar players.
Yeah.
I can't differentiate enough to catch you specifically. I might be able to catch others and get towards top 100. But I think top 100k is going to be too much of a stretch for me now. If I finish top 200k, I'll be happy with that. I'm 255 at the moment. It's going to be really difficult to make gains now. So that's a kind of mini target for me, is to try and finish top 200k now. You should certainly be targeting upwards and beyond with that wild card. This is the big week for you.
Yeah, hopefully 50.
So part of making the Salah in for Fernandes transfer, I know essentially what I'm going to do tonight. And it will be tonight rather than tomorrow morning. Subject to the team news, of course, with a caveat. Because I said on Monday I'm rolling. And then that Fernandes news made me rethink things. So it'll be for me, Chilwell. I've definitely got no reason to keep hold of this bastard.
Yeah.
Chilwell for his attacking threat. Yeah, Chelsea can't score goals, basically. So Chilwell to Trent, which I don't have enough to do in one move. It's going to be Raya to Still for the other one. My decision, this might sound ridiculous, the decision to keep Kepa rather than Raya is based on the fact that if it changed again between Steele and Sanchez, as shit as they are, I think with the fixtures Chelsea have, Bournemouth 35, Forest 36, and then their own double in 37, I would still have ended up wanting to pick Kepa over Raya, which might sound ridiculous, and I get it, but I'm a fixture head man. So at the moment, I think Kepa's going to stay for me rather than Raya. I'd pick Steele every single week if he stays in the team, because they've got their own good fixtures, including Everton at home in 35, and then double, so he obviously stays in. That leaves me about 0.6 in the bank. Going down this route is going to leave me with a ridiculous selection headache every week, because I'm gonna have a midfield 5 and 3 forwards, and because of obviously Brighton and their fixtures, i.e. double, Everton at home, double. I can't see where I'd leave McAllister out, who, despite playing a deeper position for the large parts of the game against Forest on Wednesday night, still had more shots than anybody else. So I'm still going to play him. He's on the pens. He's on set pieces. Certainly at least 3 kicks from the edge of the box. So it's probably going to regularly be me having to bench like a Tony or a Watkins. I looked at game week 36. I'll probably bench Grealish. I'm going to have a headache for a lot of weeks, but this is the route I'm going now. There isn't I'm not going to have the need to want the money, even reworking a plan that's probably going to allow me to add a Kane back in 38 even, where I'll have the money, so I don't need to fight for it. Whereas I think for usage on Wildcard, I think my number one recommendation to you would be to go for Sam Greenwood.
As a forward?
Yeah.
Well, listen to this, if I may.
Go on.
Triple Man City, Haaland, Grealish, Ederson.
I fucking hate that Ederson pick.
I know. But triple Liverpool.
Yep.
Trent, Robertson, Salah.
Yep.
Triple Newcastle.
Yep.
Isak, Trippier, Botman.
Yep.
Triple Man United.
Yep.
Lindelof, Rashford, Martial. Double Brighton, Mitoma and Steele. And Andreas Pereira. That's all Man City, Newcastle, Man United, Liverpool, Brighton, and one Fulham. That's the entire world. Like, you talk about selection headache.
Who's your
How the
forwards?
hell am I going to have a selection headache? Haaland, Martial, and Isak.
Yeah, the only thing with Martial, I think we've seen again last night, and we saw it with Isak as well, unfortunately. The good news for Isak owners, I'm sure he'll start Sunday now, despite the fact Callum Wilson scoring try. Have you seen Isak's assist that he was not given?
No.
So I sat here on Monday and went, Joe Willock closed the book on assists of the season. Yeah, fuck that. That was Isak last night, mate. But he didn't get it because the cross took a little bit of deflection where it wasn't intended direction. But he's basically...
it's like the Trent one, isn't it?
He's beat 3 or 4 players like on the touchline and stuff. Incredible dribbling skills. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I did a piece...
I could downgrade Martial, like you said, to Sam Greenwood or someone cheap. And that gives me money to turn Andreas Pereira into...
third Brighton.
I already had McAllister. I got rid of him, so I'd probably go March.
Yeah, no, I agree. So that's interesting because I did a piece for our advanced tier patrons yesterday on what I'd do on Wildcard. And I went 3 Brighton, Steele, March, Mitoma. 3 Liverpool, the same as you, Trent, Robertson, Salah. 3 City, Stones, Grealish, Haaland. I think I'm going to have to bin my Laporte idea now. That's off the table. 2 Manchester United, Lindelof and Rashford. 2 Newcastle, Trippier, Isak, Everson on the bench. Don't need the money. You could make a case as you're going still, you might want to get a keeper in. You could go Ray or whatever, a keeper that's got games. And Greenwood, and that leaves 3 million in the bank. And part of the thinking of the 3 million in the bank is it will be quite easy to flip things and give you an advantage that I think most other wildcarders won't have because the instinct is to spend the money.
Who's your goalkeeper? Oh, Everson and Steele. That's a cheap goalkeeping combo.
You don't need to go that way. You wouldn't need to go that way.
I've got Ederson over Stones for my Man City defensive coverage.
But it's things like that. What I'm saying is, like, for example, I think most wildcarding now don't go for Kane and most have been binning him or are binning him. And I think even still, if you're going to look at Liverpool away this week and still want to bin. But as I always say with Harry, any game, he'll get the returns. But if you looked at something like, say, once you've got past this double for Liverpool and you're looking for doubles for others in 37, you might want to go Salah to Fernandes, for example, downgrade Trent to a cheaper defender, and suddenly you can get like an Isak up to Kane later on or something, which if you spend all the money would be very difficult to manipulate. Kane's got Leeds away, game week 38. Shout out to the Manchester United fans who were singing to Harry Kane last night, "We'll see you in June." You are absolutely correct. I can guarantee that for you, injury permitting, because England play North Macedonia at Old Trafford.
Okay, let's get into some of these games, shall we?
Yes, let's do so. I watched, just for a bit of clarity on this, I watched Leeds Leicester Tuesday night. I watched bits of the start primarily of Wolves and Palace. I watched the first 20 minutes or so Forest Brighton. I watched Man City Arsenal. Obviously, last night I was at Tottenham. Suj was at West Ham. So we will be kind of filling in the bits of most of the other games because we'll have seen little of them, in all honesty.
Indeed. We started the week with the differential show where we were predicting, well, you specifically were predicting very few clean sheets.
How many were there in the end?
1, 2, 3, 4.
4. I mean, 4
out of 10. It's quite a few.
4 out of 20. 4's kind of par.
4 out of 20 teams, but 4 in 10 games.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. As in one
I said
team.
that, but the teams that kept them were what? Wolves, Villa, Brentford.
Yep.
And who was the other one? On Bournemouth.
Yes.
So said they'd be hard to find though.
Yeah.
So Brentford people will have a bit of. Bournemouth people won't have any of. Wolves won't people have any of. Villa, I know people got a bit of Mings and Moreno, maybe a little bit of Martinez. So it's only really Villa, Brentford, and a lot with the Brentford have benched it. And I don't regret that decision, to be totally honest. If I go back and make the decision again, I'd still go to double Chelsea. Although Gary Mantle would shoot me, I think, if I did.
So Wolves beat Palace 2-0 at home. And Ruben Neves back in the team. We were thinking he might be in for Lamina, who had a knock, but he played alongside him in the end.
Yeah, and that was big for Wolves. I spoke on Monday about Lamina being a big miss in terms of his energy, and obviously he played. It meant Gomez missed out, which was a little bit unfortunate. Bueno came back in at left back, which is a possible notable one for those, particularly, I guess, wildcarding, might go a 3.8 defender. But how often you're not going to need it, I don't think, whether it's a Bueno or Toti Gomez. There's every chance, say, Bueno might get back in. They moved Matthias Nunes from right midfield to left midfield. Huang played. But the rest of the team's beginning to feel a bit settled. Costa and Cunha are beginning to strike up a little bit of a partnership. But I have to say, the team selection that annoyed me the most this week of any team was Crystal Palace's.
Okay.
I saw that team as soon as I saw it, I said, getting beat. And actually, they had long spells in the second half where they well could have got back in it. Sarr made one brilliant save from Eze. Why did I hate the Palace team?
Yeah, Milivojevic,
shit finished.
Hughes and Lokonga.
Yeah, but what they've been doing is playing Doucouré, Eze and Schlupp. Eze and Schlupp in these 2-10, basically high 8 positions. Doucouré protecting it. So they've moved the whole three. They've moved Eze to wide on the left. And when he went back central later in the game, Palace got much better.
Yeah.
So that's what annoyed me. It's not that you've dipped a bit in, I'm going to rotate Schlupp and Hughes or something like that. Fine. You changed the whole midfield three that had been doing very well and giving teams quite a bit of problems. And as soon as I saw that, you're going up against Neves, and Lamina's obviously fit and that energy. Even though it feels like you've got a man advantage in there, that quality is a downgrade massively. So I wasn't surprised. From that point, if you'd have gone back and said, give us a new prediction, James, I'd gone, I fancy Wolves to win. Wolves definitely safe now. Palace are obviously safe as well. I still think Palace enabling assets are okay for the run-in. I think, again, I've mentioned Mark Gay to you as one to consider, Suj, who you just leave on the bench every week and no major drama with that, decent cover. It's worth noting that Joachim Anderson picked up an injury after scoring his second own goal. I think second own goal in 3 away games, and then compounded it by going off injured at half-time. They'd started with Chris Richards, who we haven't seen a lot of at right back. He moved centrally, and Joel Ward replaced Anderson at half-time. They'll be a little bit weaker defensively for Anderson not being available, but it does at least give you clarity on a Gay versus Anderson conversation. If you want to go there, you definitely go Gay. I think for your Palace assets, if you've got, possibly considering moving, like if you've gone for an Eze Elise.
Yep.
The fixtures left are absolutely fine, but it's going to be difficult looking at the obvious gains in the likes of March Mitoma,
Brighton all
and
the way.
not thinking I want to go there, or even if you're struggling this week, maybe you've already got 3 Brighton and thinking, going to downgrade this to Pereira who's got a double or something like that, or even a couple of boys like Paquetá maybe begin to put his hand up at your place even.
Yep.
So it's not saying you have to bin it, but I'd be conscious of that. I think, unfortunately, there's still no interest in Wolves at the moment. Fixtures are certainly indifferent for what's left, but it should be noted, Lopetegui's done an amazing job. I think I saw they'd been 9th since he took over.
Okay.
I know a lot of people focused on what Emery's done at Villa, but that's an amazing return for Wolves, considering
bottom, mate.
I mean, they were rough as when he took over. So he's very quietly, he's changed a few things with the system, very quietly done quite well there.
Yep, indeed. Let's talk about Aston Villa and Ollie Watkins, because every time I own him in this game, he doesn't score any points.
So have you got him at the moment?
Only in Sky. And I'm
what
not
are you crying
him.
about then?
Yeah, but he still didn't get many points in that, did he? This is, that's one of those big where you own a player in one game.
But you already sold him in Sky, didn't you?
Now I have, after this game. After this game where he didn't return, but Villa did 1-0. We're Fulham back on the beach.
Yeah, I'm so pleased that you said that, right? Because Marcus
Silva's not.
Marcus,
convinced.
a few of us have said recently they might be on the beach. Now, they've had a couple of decent results in the last few. But he came out kind of fine. He's like, people who said this don't understand football. Fine, Marco Silva, I don't understand football. Andreas Pereira had a shot on goal after about 20 seconds that didn't have another one.
Yep.
In the whole game. That was Fulham's only effort. They went
XG
over
of 0.1.
90. Yeah, that's Andreas Pereira's shot after about 20 seconds from across.
Wow.
Didn't have another shot. And interestingly, I had a few Villa fans that was a bit nervy towards the end. That's going to be nervy when the opposition never has a shot. So this was comfy enough for Villa. Tyrone Mings, obviously, goal from set piece. Lovely little flick on. Watkins still had efforts and stuff, Suj. I think for those who've got and are coming through this weekend with him, I think it's a definite bin for wildcarders. You're just going into doublers, aren't you?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. And Villa do have tougher fixtures on the whole where you probably don't foresee him hauling as such. I'm sure he'll tick over fine. But then for me, who's got, I don't pick him over Tony this week. No. Tony, Forrest at home, and Watkins goes to United. Although I would not be surprised if he scores on what I saw from United defensively last night. But I'm going to bench him. Then the following week, who have Villa got in 35? I'll probably play him at Wolves, and then I'll probably play him against Tottenham in 36.
Okay.
And then 37, he possibly gets benched again when they go to Liverpool. Then 38, he might go by then, but they've got Brighton at home. So it feels like a lot of value to be going, I'm going to start him, I'm not going to start him. But I just think it's the strength of others and players I've got with doubles is probably going to mean that's the case.
It's worth binning him, yeah.
So I think for many, it could be move on. That said, quite where I would want to go right now, I'm really not sure. Because I think the pick of the players, let's say at cheaper, is Isak. And the one good news for Isak now is that I'm sure he'll start on Sunday. Where I've been saying on Monday, I'm sure he starts at Everton, but doesn't start against Southampton. Now, I might have that wrong again, but I can't believe after Isak's performance against Tottenham that, Wilson scored last night, Isak's not going to play.
No, he's just rotating them. I'm with you. I think Isak will be back.
The missus finally sold Wilson for Isak.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm going to be in the doghouse
again. Where are you sleeping? On the sofa?
I might be sleeping in this studio, to be honest, mate.
Fair play.
So I think Villa players, they're obviously fine to keep, particularly the enabling ones like Mings. If people are thinking, why don't I go Watkins to Isak? I still wouldn't play Isak. I'm not sure. Would I pick Isak over Tony this week? I mean, it feels like it's close enough. We feel like a transfer for the sake of it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Because of the doublers got in the rest of the team, and primarily having a midfield five of doublers and obviously Haaland, it would then be it's Tony versus Watkins for me. So going Watkins to Isak now don't make no sense. I might as well wait. There's no sense in making that transfer, and particularly when it be for a hit. But even if it was for a free transfer, it'd be no point, right? How gutted would I be if I went Isak now, didn't start him, and then he got injured and Wilson's back in the team for 36 anyway? So I might as well store up the information before plan would be probably for me, Tony to Isak in 36. Yeah, Villa, I think Villa are on 2 points less than Arsenal since Emery took over or something.
It's mad, isn't it?
Incredible.
It's crazy. I mean, Arsenal have been on a bad run, but yeah, to bounce back as well after losing.
What I would say for Watkins owners particularly is, I'd be surprised they didn't score on Sunday at Old Trafford. Like, they'll get chances.
Yeah. And
they're very capable of going there and win. And I would not be surprised if they did go to Old Trafford and win. Fulham is, despite the double, I think...
Pereira for wildcard as a budget doubler.
Yeah, it's fine. I wouldn't consider anything else. I think last week I'd mentioned about Leno for those who were bench boosting maybe, but there's less value in doing that when presumably you've used your bench boost. And if you were wildcarding and bench boosting 37, you're looking at something else.
Yep.
So...
Leeds 1, Leicester 1. Good result for West Ham. This one I was happy about this because them taking points off each other's is helpful and builds a bit of buffer. 2 good goals in this game, and Jamie Vardy doing what he does. But was it only his second goal of the season?
I think so. Yeah,
it's not hardly prolific,
and very nearly had a second as well when he was acting like a madman, thinking he was onside, and he was well offside actually. Leicester grew into the game, certainly. It was a decent watch, little bit low on quality. I think you could see Leicester have more of it than Leeds. It's not to say that Leicester will definitely finish above Leeds, but Leicester had more of it. Samare, I was keeping quite a close eye on because he'd obviously had a really good involvement in the Wolves game and actually flip-flopped between brilliant and absolute car crash from 10 minutes to the next 10 minutes, kept flip-flopping. Tielemans was okay. They certainly benefited from having Maddison and Barnes back in the team. So they went with Iheanacho, did get the nod through the middle up front. And and very easily could have returned. But he actually got even livelier later in the game after Vardy come on, and he dropped off a little bit deeper.
They have had periods where they played together, and they don't do badly.
Well, they probably won't now because of the Iheanacho injuries. If you haven't seen it, Leicester play through the lines, and Iheanacho beats a challenge, and as he's dribbling with the ball, he grabs his nuts, basically. He's done his groin, and it's fairly clear. But manages to get the pass away to Maddison, who was brilliant, who got it through to Vardy, and Vardy finished it really well, actually. And Vardy was lively when he came on. He looks like he's very motivated for this last run in for Leicester, and I imagine he'll start against Everton on Monday. I'm going to assume at this point that Iheanacho will be out. I would think, obviously, wait for your team news today and stuff from Dean Smith's presser. But I think if you've taken the Iheanacho punt, it might be just time, unfortunately, just to scrap that, I'm afraid.
9.1 is too much for Jamie Vardy, though.
But at this stage, if something is affordable, it doesn't matter.
No, I get that.
But could I pick him? I mean, I know I'd said
over any of the Liverpool guys, Jota, Nunez.
Isak would be the one that's cheaper than Watkins. That obviously kind of counts out Jota, Nunez, for example. No, you wouldn't buy Vardy over those two, for example, right now. What a massive game that is on Monday. We'll obviously speak about Everton in a bit. Leeds could have won it back the other way. Many of you would have seen the Brentford miss near the end from the corner. He should score, but Leicester had a chance of their own. A draw was probably about right, but in the closing 20 minutes, once Leicester equalised, I thought they were going to win the game, Serge. I don't think it's a terrible result for Leeds. I said to you Monday, I thought of the games between teams playing each other, the one that couldn't afford to lose was Leeds Tuesday night. And they didn't, but it's still a bit bland. Rocker got worse the longer the game went on. And I think they've got a problem in the midfield area. I know a lot of Leeds fans at the moment are quite unhappy that Nonto's not playing. And I think it comes down to the defensive work of others, which is why he's not starting games. But most Leeds fans, from what I see, seem to want him in the team. You're definitely not looking anything Leeds in FPL at the moment. For Leicester, there is a case for the likes of Everson, obviously. He's got the nod now. I think we have to assume he's number one. Yep. So I think if you have been holding out for a Danny Ward to come back in, listen, if you were never going to start him and you've got another goalkeeper, then just forget about it. But if you need something, obviously deal with it. You've got Fass and Siunshu are dirt cheap at the moment. Could be one for wildcarders to consider potentially, but let's be honest, Leicester still haven't kept a clean sheet since the World Cup. So who you're never going to start it. You might as well go down to one of those Wolves guys at 3.8, in my opinion, and hope you get lucky if you need it, whether a Bueno or a Toti Gomez gets the start. Maddison was good, Serge. It was good.
His runny nose, his little bout of illness had gone then, had it? I'm still bitter because he didn't turn up on Saturday. But,
so
he's looking lively.
So are many other FPL managers, except those who had Andreas Pereira first. You're not going to go there now.
Nah.
Unfortunately, there's no point bullshitting anyone. The concentration right now in FPL, except for enablers, is basically on 5 teams. The Manchester clubs, Liverpool, Brighton and Newcastle.
One of those teams, James, are back.
Who's that then?
The XG Busters. They're not busters, actually, are they? They're the let's have 75% possession, 7 shots on target, 17 shots in total, 4 big chances, and just score 1 goal. Completely,
And yet Roberto De Zerbi said
they deserve to lose.
Nottingham Forest deserve to win.
Yeah.
And what I've heard from a few Brighton fans have also been honest and said, actually, Forest worked hard. It was a bit industrious at times, but they actually deserved it. Danilo's second goal, which comes from
it really well.
A rare problem of Brighton being brave and losing a turnover. Danilo's goal was great, actually. I think for Brighton, it just fell out a little bit where they obviously had the 2 young boys up front.
Yep.
Now, Bonate, who scored, and Enciso also should have scored. And actually, I say should have scored. That's harsh on him because Keylor Navas made an extraordinary save from him. Otherwise, he'd have returned as well. And they're obviously both dirt cheap in FPL. Enciso would be the one if you want to go down that route. We think Kevin Ferguson might be available.
Do you think
would you
take Enciso over Sam Greenwood, for example?
It depends how often you're going to play him.
Well, the thing is, when they have a double, you kind of feel inclined to play him, don't you?
Yeah.
You might not want
the
to.
problem for Enciso is Ferguson we know is close and he might be involved tomorrow. And to be honest, De Zerbi's quite honest. Like he told us on Tuesday, Buonanotte would start, right? And it was, oh shit, is it McAllister deeper? Which it was. But I think probably the bigger one is, I think most of us who watched the Cup semi-final last Sunday thought Welbeck's season might be finished. He was on the bench.
Yeah.
Now, if Welbeck was good enough to be on the bench Wednesday night, there's every chance Welbeck starts tomorrow against Wolves, I think. So I think what happened for them, neither of those two kids are bad players. I've been really impressed, particularly what I've seen of Enciso, obviously. But I think that the link between the two sixes, and they're obviously meant to drop in as two tens together, it just wasn't of the same quality, and their structures were getting broke down a little bit more often than what would happen if they had, say, Welbeck/Ferguson and McAllister in those roles. And with that in mind, I think McAllister probably will go back to a 10 position tomorrow. And so as much as I look about it, I think he's expendable. I need to shift this to March or something.
That would be a want, not a need. Moving McAllister on would definitely be a want, not a need.
He's not if I was wildcard, it would be March and Mitoma for me. Such.
Agreed.
March is he's just ticking over really nice at that value. And a few people might be going, oh, it's assist. Yeah, but at that price, was he 5.2?
5-1, 5-2, yeah.
It's just ticking over, absolutely great. And it would be those two for me, or just one. And Mitoma would still be
March
the preference.
Is up to 5-3.
Oh, wow. Can we still afford it, Suj?
Just about.
5-3. But yeah, exactly that. I don't have the luxury to be moving a penalty taker in one of the best attacking teams who's also on some of the set plays and stuff as well. And I think there's a fair chance he goes back into the 10 position. What that needs, of course, is Joel Veltman to come back in at right back and Pascal Gross to go back into central midfield. But I think there's every chance that may happen. Also, for Brighton, we have to factor in, and it's not an excuse, because if you want to be a good team, you'll need to go through this much more, Seagulls fans. Obviously, it was a really tight turnaround from Sunday and the 120 minutes, right? And it's not something that they'll be used to. And I suspect there probably was a little bit of fatigue. It's also, you play Manchester United in an FA Cup semi-final for Brighton to then, we've got a very small chance of still qualifying for the Champions League, Nottingham Forest away, when they're fighting for their lives and staying up, and you know the game's going to be bitty and they're going to go quite direct and stuff like that. Yeah, your motivation's probably not going to be in the same way. But I bet they fix it for Saturday. They'll freshen the team up a little bit. I think the other beauty with the Brighton players, though, is like certainly for Dunk, Estupiñán, McAllister, Mitoma, March, it's difficult to foresee that they won't start 2 games. And after Wolves, it's 5 days to United and then 4 days to Everton. So once they've got past Wolves Saturday, then the break
space.
opens up for them again where it's not so much of a problem. I still obviously back in important. Obviously got you the penalty save. It was a good penalty save. Still don't feel like he's going to save anything otherwise. But a 3.9, or I don't think he went up last night. Did he still?
No, he didn't.
But he might go 4.0 before the deadline. I mean, you're not expecting anything. How many of us fucking played Danny Ward every week at the start of the season?
No, exactly.
So certainly Brighton are better defensively than Leicester, and there will be something at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if they went through this week without a clean sheet, though. I'd add that. Wolves quietly are scoring regularly now.
Yeah, drip feeding
and
ones
getting
and twos,
better. Yeah. For Forest, really good result and a massive bonus to suddenly find themselves. They've got out of the bottom 3, aren't they?
Yep.
Point clear of Leicester and Everton, and they'll obviously stay ahead of at least one of them this week. The fixtures are tough, but they're probably over the last few. After that Wolves Leeds double game week, where Mark Summers has said to us they really needed 4 points and they only got 1, you could make the case that this 3 points made up for the deficit of not winning either of those 2 games, and it gives them a chance. They keep racking up defensive problems. So Nico Williams is now out for the season, broken jaw in a collision with his own player Brennan Johnson. Serge Aurier, who Cooper told us was not going to be back available, started. It's not the first time that's happened with a Forest player this season. Played right-sided centre-back. Niakate picked up a problem as well. And Joe Worrell, who I was under the understanding because they shifted it before and could only play right-sided centre-back, played left-sided centre-back in the back 3. But what Niakate's absence, if it's serious, and we don't know yet, because he did try and carry on and then came off, is the long throws will go, because it was his long throws. and that's a little bit of a weapon maybe taken away for some forthcoming games. They'll feel they can get something at Brentford tomorrow. I don't think it will, but now you're in a position where you go, right, target this. You can get something out of this if you defend properly.
Yeah.
Segue?
To Chelsea 0, Brentford 2.
Yes.
Again, Chelsea, like Brighton, had nearly 75% of the possession. They had a number of chances and shots, and you mentioned already the stat. Brentford, 2 goals, only 1 shot on target. And to be fair, Mbomo did take his goal very well. So it was 1 good shot on target.
Deflected.
A little bit, but still. I like the confidence in his goal to not want to use his teammates and be selfish. Chelsea are going to come away from this disappointed, but they just keep losing games. Is that 4 in a row in the league or in all comps? 4 or 5 in all comps?
I think it's worse. Is it worse than that?
I think Frank has lost 9 of his last 10 Premier League games.
I want to say, I'm just going to look at how many. Obviously, the Gallagher deflected goal against Brighton. Other than that, they haven't scored since the 2-2 draw with Everton in game week 28.
10 weeks? No, not 10 weeks. I'm talking about 5 weeks.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. So 1 goal in 7 games.
That's mad. That's ridiculous.
Of course it is.
1 goal in 7 games is ridiculous.
And that includes, over that period, home games against Brentford, Real Madrid, Villa and Liverpool. 4 home games in that period.
Wow.
Oh, and Brighton's 5. There's 5 games, 5 home games in there.
Wow.
So it's depressing, isn't it? And it depressed Chelsea fans before it even started when they saw the team. Oh, fucking hell. 3-5-2. Azpilicueta as a flying right wing back. I think those days are gone. Kante kind of moving from right-sided midfield of a 3 into a 10 position. Gallagher and Sterling as the front 2. I mean, it's not very imaginative, is it? And it's almost unsurprising that Chelsea had over 70% of the ball. Of course, you got quality midfield players like Fernandes and Kovacic, but not creating much. Aubameyang came on at half time.
Yeah. He had a few chances.
He did, actually.
In the second half.
But yay, go Aubameyang. I mean, I think Chelsea's need for a new centre forward in the summer is quite dramatic. No jokes now, that Chelsea fans are probably a little bit relieved that they've got enough points on the board.
Yep.
They don't need anything to stay up. They could lose all 6 games and I think they'll stay up, for example.
Yeah. But they're 39 points, James.
It's maddening.
Very low.
Honestly. It's so shocking. You want a brilliant statistic?
Yes.
I mentioned that victory for Villa at Chelsea. What was that first part of Double Gameweek 29? Villa beat Chelsea to go above Chelsea.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The week before Game Week 28, I said to Gary Mantle when we did the Chelsea-Everton game, I said, if you win these 3 home games, top 4 is still possible for you. And he laughed, and he was right too, right? But I said, look, if you beat Everton, Villa and Liverpool, you're going to jump quickly with 3 home wins, where over that period, Liverpool are still in contention but are going to lose to you and probably lose to Manchester City, and then you'd have been above them and in contention. And look at what Villa have done.
Yeah, these guys are 6 points behind Fulham and 8 points behind Brentford. They're going to finish in the bottom half of the table.
Yes, they are.
Bottom half of the table.
Well, look at what they've got left. They've got Arsenal away next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Then they've got Bournemouth away, which Bournemouth are probably safe themselves now. How many points are Bournemouth behind Chelsea?
Bournemouth
like 4 or 5?
36 now.
3 points?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Palace and Wolves are 2 points.
That's crazy.
We're 5 points.
So Bournemouth are doing
Chelsea
quite well.
do have 1 game in hand.
Then they've got Forest at home, who are definitely still going to be in the scrap. And you go, okay, Forest at home, but they're going to be in the scrap, aren't they? And then they finish with Manchester City away, Manchester United away, and Newcastle at home. Gary Mantle's advice was, a Chelsea correspondent, he said, if you've got Arsenal players, good luck if you sell them. He made an interesting point, which I think is fan psychology. He said basically, despite Chelsea's bad results, they don't get battered. It's always 1-0, 2-0, something like that, right? He said on what he's seen these last few games that they're so far gone, that battering is coming.
It's coming. Yeah. The head's going to drop early and then that's it.
Could be.
Oof.
But I still would think that Arsenal-Chelsea will be largely low scoring next week. And it wouldn't even stun me if the pressure was so much on Arsenal now that if Chelsea defend well, which they are capable of doing, if they even nicked a result, to be honest. But if they nicked a result, it could only be sit for sit if Arsenal failed in front of goal. And I just don't think Chelsea got the motivation to do anything at the moment. So, yeah, Gary's words were, if you got your likes of Martinelli and you're like, oh, I've got to sell for a doubler, he's like, think about it very strongly. And one thing we always said about this week was, of course, we're targeting the doublers. And it's going to be difficult to say buy a Martinelli now. But Arsenal, Leicester, if you are on Maddison, for example, Newcastle and Brentford, 4 great fixtures at home for teams with singles.
West Ham won. We didn't talk much about Brentford.
Brilliant season. I mean,
what are you piling into any assets though?
Well, I've got 3 of them, so I ain't getting any more. It's liable for me, like I said, that Rail will probably go tonight for Steele. Henry, I think, is just going to end up staying throughout the season. It's worth saying their fixtures are tough. Ideally, I wouldn't want that sitting there. But coming into the final, once I'm beyond this week, coming into the final 4 weeks, am I going to be in a position where I'm changing my 4.5 million defender when I know he's going to play nearly every game and they're capable, as shown, to surprise and keep clean sheets? He's going to be third sub for me nearly every game, basically. Tony, I'm going to start this week. I'm quite happy with that. Forest have clearly got defensive problems. Like I said, it's going to be a headache for me. I'll probably bench him at Anfield in 35. And then I think he goes to Isak in 36. That's loose plan at the moment. Okay.
Let's move on to the London Stadium. West Ham 1, Liverpool, as I've seen it.
Oh, here he goes.
2. A home defeat for West Ham, second defeat in 11. And Liverpool, I think this is a game that 2 weeks from now, they won't even remember. It's one that just doesn't live long in the memory.
Will you?
No. Really, honestly, not. It wasn't a great game to be at. The atmosphere. It was.
This is all on you. I've literally seen the goals. I've seen nothing else.
It's 2 teams cancelling each other out. I thought West Ham were actually played really well in terms of work rate and getting back into shape. Like Liverpool, I always feel are most dangerous when they're counter-attacking and they're running at you, and you've got Salah running at you and Jota running at you. And the problem is that their build-up play was too slow. And West Ham getting back into shape was so good. They just didn't create a lot of chances at all. They did dominate possession without creating chances. Like I never felt particularly threatened by Liverpool throughout the game.
Well, they've scored a long-range goal from a corner.
Yeah, exactly. So. And I'm disappointed with both those goals. Whereas if you look at the Paqueta goal, I mean, the build-up play to that was probably one of my most enjoyable goals to see live in a long time because, you know, you're G'ing the team on and it's like, oh, wicked. And
more than Jared Bowen's against Arsenal?
Which one?
With the one he scored?
It was more... No. Yeah, it was more enjoyable. And even when he picked it up on the edge of the box...
I'm just getting my little dig in.
When he took the shot from the edge of the box, he's still a lot of work to do to score. So I think... I'm not sure. I haven't found the stats, but I feel like West Ham might have had a higher open play XG than Liverpool, but I could be wrong because they did have a fair amount of possession there. But yeah, it was 2 teams cancelling each other out. And what ended up happening is at the start of the second half, West Ham went into this kind of phase from about 50 minutes to about 65 minutes where we just sat in a little bit too much and let Liverpool dominate the ball and build up a bit of a head of steam. And that's what led to eventually when Matip scored from the corner, because they'd been building up a little bit of momentum towards that. But they weren't creating a whole heap of chances. I know a lot of people have been raving about Trent's performance in midfield and what have you. And there's no doubt that he's got one of the sweetest right foots, but he slows the game down a lot sometimes. He plays at a very slow pace when he's in that position. I didn't find... And I think that was part of the problem for Liverpool.
But does that give him more control?
It gives us time to get back into shape.
Because their chaos has been part of their problem this year, when normally it's part of their strength.
Yeah, but then they didn't have any creativity to break us down. Like Gakpo in a number 10 role, or just forward that's dropping in, he's not particularly creative. I feel like Firmino would have been better in that role, perhaps. But don't get me wrong, I mean, they're still Liverpool and they can still hurt you. But it was a much improved performance from West Ham, to be honest, as well. I thought a 2-2 draw would have been the right result. I thought the draw was fair. I didn't think we deserved to win, but I also didn't think they deserved to win.
So,
and it was a penalty. So yeah, enough. It was a penalty
decision. Is the Big Six conspiracy? Is it? Or
yeah, it's been corrupt forever. But
was it corrupt when Thomas Souček saved that shot?
Well,
from
exactly. You know, they balance each other out.
Was it corrupt when you had 3 decisions go your way against Fulham this season?
But against Chelsea, it was corrupt with Cornet. Just saying, that one was corrupt.
Oh, right. So it was corrupt when it was against you, but when it was for you.
Do you know the problem here, James, is again
that Chelsea aren't Big Six.
Inconsistency, isn't it? I think the thing for West Ham is like, why didn't they have a look at it? Like, at least have a look at it.
I said to you yesterday that I thought it was one where that is absolutely the perfect one where nothing should be said to the referee other than go and look at it.
Just have a look, man.
Go and look at it. I know why they didn't give the decision. They didn't give the decision because Thiago has made an attempt to win the ball and he's moved his body shape where he's coming at an angle where he's going down almost like a slide tackle. An interpretation of the law says that if you're doing that, your arm is naturally going to go down. You are not going to go for a slide tackle and put your arms across your arms. It's impossible.
But
right?
he chose to lunge
it's human nature.
And slide tackle.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. And I think if it had been given, no one's complaining about it. I'm just explaining the reason why that they didn't give it. And I think
there's no point crying about it.
Literally, the problem with many things with VAR is it's like, okay, so that by matter of fact, by law, technically, maybe, is the right decision, is the problem. Whereas what that should be is like, right, referee, what did you think? And the referee could say, I had a perfect view of it. This might have happened for all we know. The referee's gone, I had a perfect view of it. For me, he's got to put his arm down. I'm not giving that. Yeah. And if he said that to VAR, which I doubt that's happened, but if he did, we'll never know, and it's fine. But I really think that's one of them where you should go and look at this from a couple of angles. The problem with VAR always is they define the decision for the referee before he does it, right?
Yeah.
They say, right, go and look at the monitor because we've decided this is deliberate handball. We know that's what happens, right? Yeah. Just literally say to him, go and look at it and decide. And then the referee, because I always speak about it, we waste everyone's time with referees going to monitors because we know 99 times out of 100 the decision's going to get overturned. It's quite clear, wasting everybody's time. I think that was a perfect one where it would have been, just go and look at it, mate. And if he makes the same decision, that's what he decides, fine. It's not, you can't call it 100%. And that's why it's not got overturned and done over. There was one recently where, was it and Diddy, I think, for Leicester at Man City, where it was pretty unfortunate. It was definitely a penalty. So they overturn it and go, yeah, you've got to have that. It's clear, and you couldn't complain. This one had enough doubt because he's going for a tackle and his arm's going down. And that's why they've not given it. I don't necessarily agree with that, by the way. I'm just explaining the decision.
Look, there's no point moaning about it. Let's talk about FPL.
Hold on, you're on a double.
What do you mean we're on a double?
You're on a double and you're on a wild card. So how many West Ham players are you having?
0.
Come on, give me some chance.
0. The only West Ham players that I would consider... Well, look, Sofal was 4 million. He's definitely playing it right back. If you need bench fodder or you wanted to go someone cheap, these are players like these... If you're picking any of these players, it's because you like to live on the wild side of life. But so far at 4 million, I think is decent. Would I pick him over Lindelof at 4.5? Probably not. Excuse me. And the only other ones is kind of Benrahma or Paqueta, 5.8, 5.9. Benrahma preference because he's on penalties, but they kind of share it around.
I think Soufal's a great one for free hitters this week as sub.
Agreed. And Bowen's always all right. He's been playing all right, but I wouldn't go near any of them because you've got the Brighton guys that are cheaper. And if it's going to be bench fodder, then you just go all the way down to Pereira.
What about the big man up front?
Nah.
No?
Nah, I don't think so.
Just flat no?
Yeah, it's too much money. You've got Isak or Watkins or Tony. I'd go to any of them.
On COTC yesterday, which I highly recommend a listen with a much smiling Johnny Pringle following Man City's victory Wednesday night and Chris Stone. We looked at the historical of the game at the Etihad and the fact that you never seem to get battered there. It's sort of 2-0, 2-1, very, very regularly. All the beatings, bad ones you've had by City have been at your place, not at the Etihad. City have beat you every time, is what I'm saying, since Guardiola took over in league games at the Etihad. But I think they only scored 3 once. There's normally 2s and stuff. That's not to tell anybody don't captain Haaland this week, by the way. And, of course, City are in a different mood right now to normal. But interestingly, I threw a couple of stats out. For example, Fabianski has more FPL points than Ederson.
Okay. Ederson has very low FPL points this year.
Zuma who has missed bits of the season.
Yeah.
Has more FPL points than any Manchester City defender.
Mad.
Now, we also know that people like John Stones haven't played 38 games, for example, as well, right? Nathan Ake's injured at the moment, for example. Cancelo might even still be the highest Man City scoring defender, I'm not sure. But it does make you question it and think twice, because there's a game at Palace at the weekend that you're very capable of going there and winning and keeping a clean sheet. Especially if, Hodgson won't, but if Hodgson picks that same midfield three again, then you would go there and win.
Yep.
So I wouldn't rule it out. I think if I had to go and punt one this week, it'd be Flappy. Because he's very capable of hauling.
Yeah.
He has always been a reasonable FPL asset. But generally speaking, if I'm honest, no, I wouldn't. For Liverpool, who do you think will play up front against Tottenham?
I can tell you actually. Mo Salah.
Definitely?
Mo Salah.
Okay. We should consider here with Liverpool players to play Tottenham Sunday. So the turnaround from West Ham's 4 days, that's fine. But then it's Fulham 3 days. Then it's Brentford 3 days. I would suggest that every single outfield player is potentially at risk across the 2 game weeks and the 3 fixtures. They are all at Anfield. That helps. Jota came off fairly early, Suj.
Yep.
How did he play?
No, largely marked out of the game by Sofal. He took a knock halfway through the first half where he was down for quite a while, a few minutes, in a collision. I don't know if that affected him, to be honest with you. But, yeah. There was nothing from any Liverpool assets that were like, let's steam in, because none of them were amazing.
Interestingly, Luis Diaz
came on
rather than Nunes.
But Nunes did come on after.
Nunes came on for Gakpo.
Yeah.
And Nunes, I'm right in saying, last quarter of an hour played through the middle, I presume?
Yep. I think Nunes and Diaz are going to get minutes. It wouldn't surprise me if Firmino gets a few minutes in the next few as well. But I think Salah will play them all. That's why I'm going with Robertson and Trent.
Injured for the last couple.
Is he not back yet?
I don't know if he's back for the weekend. It was minor injury that kept him out this week.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I think...
That's why I'm going defensive. Double defensive plus Salah.
I think one way or the other, I think Nunes will start against Tottenham.
Okay.
And I said Monday that I thought, yeah, it could be chaos. Liverpool won't do to Tottenham what Newcastle did. Let me go and say that. I obviously think Liverpool will win. And in respect of
that's a clippable statement.
What? Liverpool won't do what? Yeah. It might be worse.
That's a clippable statement.
No, look,
I hope it's not.
I sat here 10 days ago and told you all that Newcastle would destroy Tottenham. I think Liverpool will beat Tottenham. I don't think Liverpool will destroy Tottenham, let me say that. But I think Nunes, if it was a single game week, I'd be really keen to punt that. I just don't think you can. But I think the problem is you can definitely see that rotation for the offensive guys. Whether it's, last week's Gakpo 1 pointer was this week's Jota 1 pointer. This week Gakpo's scored and got bonus as opposed to Jota getting a couple last week. And it might be they both flop this weekend and Nunes gets the return. It feels like it could be like that. We definitely think the attacking players are getting rotated.
Yeah, 100%.
Over the 3 games.
Except Salah. I think Salah will play.
I'm not sure, Suj.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to say that Jota or Diaz can't play out on that side, particularly when you've got 3 home games in the space of a week. Now, my instinct would be that Mo Salah is the most likely to play all those 3 games. But I think even like speaking with Johnny yesterday about the idea of going against Haaland for captaincy, I think with the 2 home games, Tottenham being bad defensively, Fulham on the beach, yes, you might be, that Salah would potentially appeal, but I couldn't make the case to captain him over Haaland, I don't think. Definitely Salah would be in on Wildcard. I think I'd end up going Robertson and Trent, which is, I think that's what you're leaning into,
exactly.
Isn't it?
Yep.
Good fixtures till the end of the season. The other thing with that as well is it's an easy way out of money. If you need to find something to get you back up to something else, say that's Grealish to Bruno Fernandes in 37 or whatever, or Kane later on again at the end, for example, then downgrading to Robertson, for example, is going to find you some money near the end. And what you need to check through, Serge, is check through, use FPL.team as a tool, and ask, who am I benching 35? Who am I benching 36? What's my plan transfers? And then that locks in what you're doing.
Correct.
You should. I really think if you're wildcarding at this stage, you should seriously be looking, not 38, because that's a crapshoot at the end and just punt something. But I think you should be planning, at least have a strategy idea of your transfers in 35, 36 and 37.
Let's talk about Man City 4, Arsenal 1. I mean, a lot of people would have watched this game. And the scoreline tells the story, doesn't it? Boys v men. They just decided that they wanted to
It's harsh.
Turn up. And, well, it's what Clayton said. So
he's an Arsenal fan, so he should know.
You know. But they look like they dominated it from start to finish in the highlights that I saw when I got home.
I think...
A bit between the teeth. KDB decides he wants to win a game of football. Good luck to you.
The key person to the victory was Guardiola. And there's zero doubt about that. City had some brilliant individual performances, but they played brilliant as a team, and they gave Arsenal a lot of problems. But those stemmed from a brilliant tactical setup from Guardiola, and we have to balance this, because how many times have we sat here over the years and gone, oh my God, he's overthought this in a big game and got it wrong. He won them this game so early on. I couldn't believe how comfortable I felt 15 minutes into the game that City were going to go and win. And I know they were already ahead, but obviously as a Tottenham fan, I'm watching this quite nervously, right? I'm really wanting City to win. And I wasn't in any doubt from really early in the game that City were just going to be too good. What Guardiola did, well, he did a lot of things and could spend a long time talking about it, but he basically flattened the game. And what I mean by that is he basically went with essentially a 4-2-4. He played Akanji at left back, Cole Walker played at right back, John Stones played at centre back with Ruben Diaz, and they flattened that as a 4. None of it went into inverted. Ahead of that, it wasn't Rodri, therefore, as a single pivot. Gundogan played as, I was going to nearly say Guardiola, which he could have actually, because he was good enough as a player. Played as a 6 alongside Rodri. Didn't advance too much. We've seen majority of City games with Gundogan recently where he's been kind of hovering about as almost like a second forward. None of that in this one. Very deep. Grealish high left, Bernardo high right, occasionally drifting inside if Zinchenko thought he was going to be clever enough and try and do the same. And Haaland and basically Kevin De Bruyne up front. De Bruyne's job was to float in between the 10 position, between Arsenal's defensive lines and midfield lines, get off the back of Thomas Partey particularly, and try and draw Gabriel and Rob Holding out in response to Manchester City's setup, because Arsenal wanted to go very man-to-man, and that's brave, and we should admire that, although I think the smart strategy would have been, shit, City are doing something here we're not expecting, we should retreat. Because that's still the best way to deal with Manchester City. It's just make it fucking ugly for them. When you make a football pitch big, you're backing yourselves to be better than them. And when they're in that mood and playing that well, I don't think anybody is. So Arsenal tried to counter it by basically kind of reverting to almost like a 4-4-2 off the ball themselves and going quite man-to-man. And they left basically Ruben Diaz, it might sound ridiculous, they basically left Ruben Diaz as the man on the ball who, you can do what you want with it, we're going to stop passing lines. But what City did magnificently well, and Diaz did well because he came out with the ball quite a lot, was third man runs. And what that means is you play a pass into someone. So let's just say Gundogan has got his back to goal. You're feeding it into Gundogan, but he's not the target pass. It's back into Rodri, and then same thing on again. Rodri forward into the front two, turn and go. Every single Manchester City player played very well. I thought Akanji defensively didn't look out of his depth at left back. He dealt with Saka quite well. Martinelli got nothing out of Cole Walker, which is often the case with Cole Walker in big games, that you get him in a 1v1 draw and he's excellent. City didn't step out of position in line where Arsenal had any space at any point in the game to hurt them. And the two front players were brilliant. That's the best I've seen Erling Haaland play. And I know he missed a shitload of chances. He had a shitload of chances. He's only ended up with 1 goal in that game. We always joke about his touches, right?
Yeah.
36 of them. 3 key passes from Erling Haaland. It wasn't just De Bruyne floating in the 10 position, Haaland dropping in. I mean, his hold-up and link play for the first goal is just so good. So good the way he holds off Holding, literally, and spins and plays De Bruyne in behind. And the two of them, Arsenal just could not cope with it. They could not cope with those two dropping in and playing as 10s behind. Because the problem with the way that City set up, I think, particularly Thomas Partey, who had a bad game. He had a really bad game. Off the ball running defensively, looked like he was running through mud a lot. Because Arsenal went to go man-to-man a lot, and like I said, they shoved into like a 4-4-2 shape. So if you think City have gone 4 up front, basically, if you just include Bernardo and Grealish in that for a minute, they got a line of 4. So Arsenal stayed with a flat of 4 as well, with Zinchenko not coming inside, playing as a normal left back, right? So you're going 4v4. It's brave. You're going for it. But then ahead of that, you've obviously got Odegaard and Jesus then sitting as a front 2 off the ball. You've got Martinelli and Saka with the fullbacks, and you've got Partey and Xhaka going up against Rodri and Gundogan. And I think Partey's pre-game probably advice would have been, your man is going to be Gundogan, because you think Gundogan's going to be the highest, right? Need to stick with him, be protective of him. Because Gundogan was going so deep, he kept drawing him out. What Liverpool did a couple of weeks to him, which I did on Talking Tactics, was Curtis Jones kept pulling Partey into wide areas, and that's what opened so much space for Gakpo in midfield in that game. Basically, City always look for an advantage of an extra man, right? Whether it's Stones going inverted, we saw it earlier in the season with Rico Lewis. They did it here with the front 2, because Gundogan was drawing Partey, and the space was too big between defence and midfield. And if you've got people like De Bruyne and Grealish running at you, you're in so much trouble. And I think if Arsenal could play the football match again, they'd have played it very differently. Essentially, the boys versus men's quite harsh, but it did feel like that. It felt like when we watched them City-Liverpool games, it felt like there was no way City could have done that to Liverpool. Liverpool would have worked the press out differently. Or even in their own stages, they've done with City, we saw right at the start of this season. Actually themselves go, right, we're going to go with a bit of a lower block here. Arsenal were almost too brave, and I wonder if that was a fallout from some of the recent results, the psychological impact of suddenly going there, being in a position 3 weeks ago where they could have afforded to lose there, to going into this game thinking, got to win.
Yeah.
And it's weird that Arsenal is still top of the league, and yet no one thinks Arsenal will win this league now. City are 2 behind, with 2 games in hand, and it's very, very difficult not to foresee City going on and winning it from here. Arsenal still got to go to Newcastle as well, which a lot of people, look at Newcastle at the moment. Wow. Yeah, absolutely brilliant from City. It was you basically got a mix of a little bit like what happened with, and very different games, what happened with Villa Newcastle recently. With Villa hit their best performance of the season, Newcastle hit their worst. I wouldn't say it was Arsenal's worst performance of the season, but it was certainly nowhere near what we've seen from them this season, and it was City's best performance. City were breathtakingly good. The one-touch vertical passing, they were so direct. So direct. And when we say direct, even the first goal, Stones just hacks it up the pitch. Into Haaland, 1v1 duel, can you turn your man? Yes. But the third man runs, and the vertical straight passing, playing long-distance passes crisply, Suj. You see, when you see a pullback for a shot, I'm trying to think of one I saw, Mitoma at Forest the other night. Mitoma got a chance, and he hit it into the ground a bit, and it bobbled. It never felt like City played a pass that wasn't like on a bowling green. Everything was just executed to precision. It almost felt like watching them that they'd been working up to this moment to hit their peak, and the treble really is on for them.
Indeed. James, we've got to move on to Thursday night. We've got 3 more games still to rattle through. Everton 1, Newcastle 4. Everton looking like they're doomed. There's no FPL interest in these, but Newcastle, there clearly is. Yep. If people already own, though, a bit of Newcastle. Trippier, we're going to assume, is now a kind of
like I said,
given
I
in
think
so many teams. What's his ownership?
Ironically, like I said, Trippier's in 95% of live teams, and I wouldn't be surprised if that comes down a little bit this weekend.
Yeah, overall,
actually.
67.
Because I think as well, I think free hitters, and we know there'll be a number of free hitters this week, won't go. Well, I won't say they won't go there. Might not go there. Let's say, whereas everyone else is still holding, and I think because of the double in 36, most who wildcard, I presume you're going to go there, Serge. You're going to keep, yeah.
I'm holding him through, yeah.
It's worth saying, the returns haven't been there for a while.
No,
now, right?
There's stupid leaky goals.
Not a lot of clean sheets, but I think the deciding factor into definitely say keeping him is you may even, if there's doubts about it, you may even just default to captain him in 36 with that double. Remember, Brighton's double's rough, right? It's Arsenal away and Newcastle away. Whereas Newcastle's other game is Leeds away.
Yeah.
So he's probably definitely going to be a Newcastle player. Plus, Haaland's got a second leg of a Champions League game against Real Madrid 3 days later. So there's an element of risk. And they play on a Sunday, so you've got no chance of early leaks of anything like that. So, I mean, in that week, I want to captain a Newcastle player, which is why I'd also definitely go Isak if I was wildcarding now. The good news is, I know people be gutted they got Isak and he's not played. But now it's switched the other way where I'd be very confident that he does play this weekend.
Yeah, agreed. I'm not worried. I just take it as that's part of life and part of rotation.
With what you're going to wildcard, are you going to start him?
Yeah.
So who would your bench be, do you think, this week?
Botman, Pereira, Lindelof.
So you go Isak with a single and an element of that he doesn't start over Pereira's double, even though he's a pen taker.
Well, yeah, that's a fair point with Pereira. But
mind you, if Fulham don't shoot for over 90 minutes,
that's true. I'd have to have a think about it, but my instinct was to start.
You know Pereira is scoring in the 88th minute against Man City on Sunday when City are 3-0 up, don't you?
Yeah, so annoying. Against my Edison goalkeeper pick, probably.
I think I would play Isak. Yeah, personally,
I think Isak's in really good form, and he's got the potential of hauling as well. Like it's always a goal and an assist, or a couple of goals, or what have you. So, well, at least it was against your team. But I think for me, Everton are looking down the barrel at the moment now. There is really bad.
I was thinking about this as a cheeky one. I'm looking at a couple of ideas, and I don't think I'm going to do this. It doesn't make much sense. The idea of actually selling Botman, with the idea behind that being to come back into 36 for Isak plus another attacking one.
Right.
Whether that's Joel Linton or Willock or even Callum Wilson.
Okay.
Is there a case
to go both?
To go both. Because right now, they're flying. They scored more goals in the last week than I think they scored I saw in the stat December, January and February combined, having scored 10 goals this week. But whichever one of the two plays seems to score and do well, doesn't it? Wilson got a couple against you, didn't he?
Yep.
Isak come on and scored in that same game. Isak's got a couple against Tottenham. Wilson comes on and scores as well.
Joel Linton's in a bit of form.
He is.
Willock,
he's had
Murphy.
Willock as well.
Murphy lost his
playing
place
so well.
You could pick any of them.
I mean, Murphy scores twice against Tottenham, and that's his reward.
Yeah.
Harsh as, doesn't it? Really. Maybe he's still in shock from his shock on his face when he scored that goal against Tottenham. Maybe he's still in shock about it. But it shows they've got options.
Yeah, I think for wildcarders, it's not essential to get 3 in, but get back to 3
I
for
think
36.
you'll want 3 for 36. I think the right play for wildcarders
at least 2
would be
a second trip.
I don't think it has to be at least 2, but I would say that if you go with none, I don't understand that. Even if you're benching it this week, I don't understand putting yourself in that difficulty because I'm pretty sure you will want 3 and 36, despite the fact, and I keep saying this, the benching headache we are all going to have in Game Week 36 is off the scale. It's going to be unbelievable. That's why you need to go Greenwood, Suj.
To alleviate the stress.
For you to look at that bench and go, I wouldn't have bench boosted this. That's what you need to do. Pick Danny Ward as well, right? Just pick some shit to know that you wouldn't have bench boosted it. Hell, are there going to be some big bench scores in Game Week 36, certainty. But you play the Newcastle players with a double. You've got to go for it at the end of the season. It was interesting when Andy come on the pod with me a couple of weeks ago from Let's Talk FPL, and we're talking about 36, and he's saying, we'd have to captain a doubler.
Yeah.
3 weeks to go. And captain Haaland at Everton. Oh, maybe. But Newcastle are in great form. I think going Isak and Wilson is not as ridiculous as it sounds.
Okay.
And that, please don't tell my missus I said that.
Clip that, please, Nico. Southampton 0, Bournemouth 1. We can safely say.
Don't fucking clip that, mate. He just looks at me like I've got you.
Southampton 0, Bournemouth 1. Basically, Southampton relegated, Bournemouth safe.
Saints, Jesus.
6 points now, and 6 games to go. Southampton gone, and Bournemouth up to 36 are safe.
Tough games. The reality is you'd have been better off conceding the 4th to Arsenal on Friday night and obviously winning last night. And when we spoke to Matt last week on COTC, we highlighted 3 games for Southampton that were left that were basically must win, and this was one of them. Even more so after Bournemouth got well done by yourselves at the weekend, right? You think, oh,
good recovery for them, but I didn't think they were that bad. I didn't think they would beat Southampton.
No, it's because West Ham are massive and gargantuan.
Massive.
Ward-Prowse went off at half-time last night as well. So one of the things I meant to mention Monday, and it really annoyed me. There's a lot of things every week that I don't mention on the pod that really annoy me. And the one that really annoyed me Monday was that Lavia got taken off 5 minutes to go at Arsenal when they were in control. And it fell apart as soon as it went off. Losing Ward-Prowse, if he's out for a while, is obviously clearly a blow. Team was similar to what they picked at Arsenal. Kelechi Char played at centre-back. Bournemouth may have their own issues. Marcus Tavernier has scored, also went off. Can't seem to keep himself fit, unfortunately. But I think that's job done. Vina come back in at left wing-back. Tavernier went to the right-hand side. From what I have seen of the game, Solanke had some good chances again. And he's another one. I mean, arguably, we've mentioned Arsenal, Leicester, Newcastle, Brentford. Should we be putting Bournemouth at home to Leeds in there as well as another team with a good home fixture this week? He's another one. It'd be ugly to leave out, Solanke, this week. Difficult. But probably for most people, probably would be someone that you'd put on the bench. I would imagine it'd probably beat Leeds on what I've seen of Leeds recently. I've seen Leeds' last 3 games and I'm not impressed. You're not going to invest in Bournemouth new. That said, Solanke, I guess, is a value if you wanted to come down and kind of have it as a regular first sub for the rest of the season. I don't hate it. I think that the moment for the likes of Billing, and if Tavernier's got a knock, has probably gone because most are looking towards a 5-man midfield, or even if they're not, going with, say, a Pereira as the fifth midfielder and 3 up front. And they coped with, obviously, Stevens not playing. Stevens has been really important for them, and obviously he couldn't play because it's a Southampton player on loan. And Senasai come back in last night. And they coped with it. 1-0 win against a team that I guess is local rivalry to a certain small extent. They're basically safe. Gary O'Neill's done a really good job, and a lot of the Bournemouth fans would have changed back in sort of December, January, And very quietly he's done well. Have you seen his reaction to the goal? No. He looked proper stunned. Nice. It's good. It's worth a look.
Right, and last but not least, James, to route through Tottenham 2, Manchester United 2. After 7 minutes, you must have been... here we go again.
At 7 minutes, I was thinking so far.
Here we go again.
Nah, just before Sancho scored, I was counting down. I was like, this is 200% better. After 20 minutes, I was like, well, this is still 400% better.
Yeah, you did go 2 down. United. I watched the first half. United was decent. They had a lot of chances.
United deserved their half-time lead.
And they did well. And then I switched it off, mate. I didn't watch the second half. And telling me that you guys were a lot better.
I think by the end of it, we probably merited a draw, to be totally honest. Yeah, I think that probably ended as a fair result. I think certainly in terms of chances in the game, United had much the better in the first half and Tottenham much the better in the second half. I mean, Dyer, Sonny, missed some sitters in the second half.
Yeah, XG was kind of sort of 2.4 to 2.3.
I think by the end, Tottenham shaded it, I think, just about. But I think... It was nice. It was nice to feel something, Suj. I enjoyed the second half. I had a team I could support in the second half. Like, when Son scored,
putting effort in,
even though it's irrelevant to European, we don't really care if we qualify. We don't qualify for Europe. I would prefer to, but it was nice to. I enjoyed it. Got up and really celebrated when Son scored because it felt merited at that time. What I didn't like, and I don't know why it happened, but they were there for the taking, United. And we didn't look like we could go and finish the job. And it became a little bit more like hanging on for a draw in the last couple of minutes, which I was disappointed with because United were there to be done. They are not in a good way defensively at all. Perisic give Wan-Bissaka more problems I've seen anyone give Wan-Bissaka the last few weeks. Perisic second half was his best performance for Tottenham for a really long time. Putting some delightful balls in the second half. What he worked out eventually with Wan-Bissaka, he kept taking him on. And I kept fucking taking him on. You're not going to beat him. Just like literally shift it to the side, cross the ball. You're taking Wan-Bissaka out of his defensive qualities from that point. There were a few good performances. He was one last night for Tottenham. I thought Clement Longley at left-sided centre-back was really quietly good. Romero, depending on which game you watched and which perspective, was either 9 out of 10 or an absolute liability again. He had one point, Suj, where he went charging forward and he made out like he was ended up in their area and United go for it and he's not making out like he's injured. but he's not. He's clearly not. He starts walking back. Fucking hell. And admittedly, he'd busted his gut. Like, he'd stepped out of the back. He won the ball. He harassed the next man. We went on a counter-attack. And at that point, he was part of like a front four because he'd won it himself. Yeah, sure, keep going. But then he never made it back. And he decided once he'd got back, he was like, I'm going to stay at centre forward. Literally for about 30 seconds, he was like, I'm going to go and press in the centre backs and stuff. So you could say he works hard, or you could say he's not using his noggin. Yeah, mate. I told you, I feel sorry for whoever plays centre back with him. But yeah, Longley, I thought, was just very quietly after a bit of a craziness at the weekend. He was a miss, played quite well. Højbjerg, moving on.
So what would you do if you're a Kane owner? Because I think the Tottenham ownership is very concentrated on Kane.
He was great, Harry.
Keep him. If you're wildcarding, you're definitely getting rid because you want the money for Salah's, Poland's.
Can't see how you don't gamble a double R. Liverpool away.
I'm with you.
I don't know how you don't gamble it.
I think his ownership's gonna plummet.
The thing is as well, like this midweek, De Bruyne and Fernandes again. I mean, Fernandes. People can moan that they got rid of Fernandes like me. Let me tell you, you're lucky to get away with only 5 points. I think Bruno got last night. He's nutmeg on. It was on Longley actually, and then the dink that hit the bar in the second half, and it would have been a wonderful goal. He'd scored it. So he easily could have had a big haul himself, Bruno, and he was good. He was looking for Rashford straight away every time last night. Particularly on that channel, which Tottenham have big problems with because Emerson Royal isn't fit. I keep talking about it. With Harry, though, I mean, he was great. And what happened last night? Little subtle tweak. Dropping in deep. Created 5 good chances. And because he's doing it, who else looks better?
Sonny.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's just literally not
Kane,
rocket science on what I watched this season.
But the likelihood is that with budget, he's one that might be a make weight for a lot of people, just because there are other good options, like you mentioned, Bruno, Salah, Haaland. Some might look at De Bruyne as they want to get as well with the additional fixtures. Going to be tough to squeeze him in. Marcus Rashford is obviously your talismanic Manchester United asset to own.
Auto pick, mate.
Luke Shaw's dropping in at centre-back all of a sudden. Lindelof is a cheap option at 4.1.
Most of the corners last night, Luke Shaw. It's worth saying.
What would you do? Luke Shaw over... I mean,
I'd go Lindelof.
You'd just go cheap.
Yeah.
Lindelof. Cheap it out. Because they're still liable to concede.
Yeah.
Would you... How important do you think Bruno is?
For a wild card?
Or can live without?
I think it'd be touch and go. If I was wild carding, I think... The midfield names I definitely have is Salah, Mitoma, Rashford would be definite
given
as the best choices from those 3.
Grealish.
Then it's probably between second Brighton, second or first City, Brighton. Fernandes. It's probably between that.
But Fernandes is expensive. Like for me to go Fernandes over a McAllister, for example, means sacrificing Trent or Robertson and cheaping out a little bit.
So what are you thinking to go in midfield?
Salah, March, Mitoma, Grealish.
And one more.
Yes, Pereira.
Rashford.
No, sorry, Rashford.
Salah, Rashford, March, Mitoma,
yeah, and if I'm
Grealish.
cheaping out, Pereira instead of McAllister.
Yeah, but see what I said about leaving money in the bank and having someone like Robertson now?
Yeah.
Say if... Let's not pretend that the City situation can't change with someone like Grealish, right? Where suddenly Foden's back fit. Foden starts playing every game on the left and Grealish is playing the Champions League or whatever. You might hit 37 and think, I want to switch this about. And Robertson becomes Aki if he's back fit and Grealish becomes like Fernandes. Do you know what I mean? That's why I think you should be a little bit conscious of leaving the money because you probably can't quite do that financially. You're probably a bit short. Do you know what I mean? If you max out all your money, for example. And someone like Greenwood... If you go with that sort of 5 in midfield, I don't see where you're leaving them out. Yeah. Now, admittedly, a Grealish could get rotated and have 0 minutes, and you'll need the bench. But you could have that defensively or something, Suj, I think. I'd definitely go Lindelof over Shaw, just because I think it's worth the 1 million saving, and because I don't think there'll be many clean sheets. I think Villa and Brighton will both score against them this week.
Yeah, but then at that point, Lindelof's not going to get you much attacking, whereas Luke Shaw might. That's only if Luke Shaw's really playing left back as opposed to...
Yeah, but it's not impossible that Luke Shaw slings the corner over and Lindelof scores it.
True.
So, I think Shaw's fine. Like, is he better as an offensive asset than Lindelof? Yeah, sure, of course. 4.1 when you've got doubles to come and stuff. I'd think ahead to 37 as well, because although I'd arguably free hit with Lindelof this week to max out the budget. And if I was free hitting, I'd probably try and force like a De Bruyne in, for example, or a Nunes or something like that, a little bit different. And something like Lindelof will help facilitate that. But it's probably more the end, knowing that the 37 doubles Bournemouth and Chelsea, and 38's Fulham at home. And very quietly, ahead of this fixture, United have kept 6 clean sheets in 8. But we opened them up at will at times in that second half. And this is a Tottenham team that's obviously very short of confidence at the moment. You can definitely hurt them. Maguire was unavailable for a slight injury, but I think he'll probably stick with Dalot left back primarily, Shaw and Lindelof, and Wan-Bissaka at right back. Although Wan-Bissaka was getting done by Perisic, I was surprised that he took him off, because I didn't think Malacia going on and playing against Kulusevski was going to make their life any better, and it didn't. Richarlison worked very hard in his hour or so, but doesn't look like he could hit the cow's arse with the you-know-what. On Harry, I said prior to Newcastle, we'll probably lose these 3 games, but don't be surprised if he scores in all of them. I've obviously gone without since Wildcard in 26. It's worth saying this is the first game it's probably hurt me.
Interesting.
And it didn't hurt me till I got home, because I didn't realise he got the assist for the first one either. So, was it 2 assists and then 3 bonus?
3 bonus, James, yes.
Sonny, don't go there, but Liverpool will give him space on Sunday. And if Harry's dropping in again, at some point in that game, he will find him.
Cool. James, this is a wrap of all of the games. I've been through all of the questions that we've had on Twitter. This is for the first time in absolutely ages.
There's something we haven't covered.
No. There's nothing we haven't covered. And
almost
every question, in fact, every question I'm going to say is an FPL question. Like, there's no one that said, what about this food?
Late night tweet, you say?
Yeah, it's all FPL, and we've covered off all of these teams. So much Wildcard and Newcastle chat. Well, what are you streaming?
I definitely were not expecting someone to say, tell me about Wolves midfielders, or should I go Cunha or Costa? I'm not expecting that sort of thing at the moment.
So,
when am I streaming?
Deadline stream tomorrow?
There will be a deadline stream tomorrow morning, yes. 10 a.m. Advanced tier patrons, your team news stream might be later today. It might end up being tonight. We still got a diff show for intermediate and advanced tier patrons later today as well. Main pod next week, and probably the next 2 weeks, is going to be on a Tuesday. It's a bank holiday here, and I want to take it off, and I'm sure Suj does as well. So we'll probably do a game week review Tuesday, and then for the weekend, and then obviously you've still got 4 games Tuesday to Thursday, so we'll cover them on a bit of a shorter one next Friday as well, ahead of 35. And then the week after, there's 3 games on the Monday.
Oh, wow.
So we'll do it because the King's coronation. So we will generally leave that one till the Tuesday.
Lovely job,
after 35. So just a note for you, if you're waiting for your Monday. I can tell you this Monday, I do have a pod for you. We probably won't the following Monday, because there's going to be football on all day.
Yeah.
Because it's Dust Day, the Championship at 12 o'clock as well, I think. So fuck listening to us, watch the football. Tomo. Ben Tomo Thompson's joining me on Monday for the Fan View, following Sheffield United's promotion back to the Premier League.
Lovely jubbly. If you want to support the show, do it on Monday, because the first of the month, all the better. But head over to patreon.com/PlanetFPL, where you can support the show, get access to our Slack channel, prize leagues, additional podcasts at intermediate tier, and additional videos and streams at advanced tier as well. Loads of stuff.
I suspect...
Loads of stuff.
I suspect Talking Tactics will still be on Manchester City Arsenal next week, and what Guardiola did.
So, if you want to support the show, that's where you can go to do that. Other than that, if you're on Wildcard, good luck. If you're not, also good luck. Stay safe. Have a great weekend. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Play it your way as ever. Good luck. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man child.